Well, first off, I want to say thank you very much, everybody, for taking time out of their schedules. Hopefully, you guys had a great Christmas and got to enjoy some time with friends and family. And, you're ready for the new year. I know we're just going to wind this down. We're at the end of 2017, which is kind of crazy, but real excited with what has transpired over the last year with Bidpoint. And it's so awesome to meet so many new people. I know Rick would say the same thing. Monty would say the same thing. And then you got Jim and Joe at Avion and the rest of the cast of characters that we got, that are jumping on board with us. So it's real exciting to see where we're at, where we come from, and I believe where we're going. Now, what I wanted to do tonight is this is going to be kind of a semi-casual presentation because this is more of a training to kind of gear you up to thinking a little bit bigger with what you have your hands on with Bidpoint and going into the new year. I wanted to kind of give you guys a few things to consider in how you can grow your business, not only personally, but, building a team of advisors that you have the ability to, override, which is, very exciting. So I'm going to kind of give you some of those things, kind of wake up that dream machine a little bit. And I'm going to give you some steps that we're going to follow to kind of get this thing going, and throw some more stuff out there. And then I'll end up closing with leading you into where what we're going to probably do coming in the beginning of the new year and so on. So the first thing I wanted to talk to you about is we have a thing, I talked with Monty. Monty and I have been talking about this for a while, and I talked it over with Rick. I wanted to kind of give a name to something so we can kind of keep everybody on the same page and build a little buzz around it. And it's called the 10 Team Challenge. And it was just kind of a saying that popped into my head. And what I'm trying to do is I would like to see everybody grow their personal advisor team by 10 within the next 30 days. So in the beginning of January to the end of January, if I believe that if we could focus, those people that want to do it to grow their team by a factor of 10, building it, whether it's, you do it all yourself or you got them in got them in through somebody who got somebody kind of thing, that if you focused on that, I think what I'm about to show you is kind of going to give get your attention, get your eyes open to the potential of why it's important to build a team. Okay. Now I want to do that by kind of really dumbing this down at the easiest I can and kind of laying some things out so you really begin to think about the big picture. Now, I have a Coke machine up here because this was a few slides I'm about to show you that really got me a long time ago to understand the power of being leveraged. And what it was somebody kind of told me the story about Coca-Cola and how big of a company they were. And obviously everybody knows who Coke is. They're one of the largest companies in the history of mankind. And, they were talking about, the power of why they became or why they are so successful is not that there's an actual Coca-Cola store or anything like that, but there's many outlets. There's leverage. Coca-Cola is extremely leveraged in the fact that they have Coke machines just about everywhere you can possibly think. Okay. Now, if you think about it yourself, that if you decided to build an advisor team, build a group of people, each person, if each person represented or each Coke machine represented a person, understand that just like any other Coke machine out there that you had ownership of or you had the ability to earn an income from, you could look at that the Coke machine might be in a very high traffic area. So one Coke machine, might generate you $500 a day in sales. Maybe it's at a park or it's at a ball field or something like that. There's people using it all the time at a swimming pool in the summer, right? Or maybe there's those Coke machines that are, out in the middle of the desert at this small location that, maybe sell 1 or 2 cans a week or something like that. The power of what Coke did and the power of being leveraged is your ability to have multiple outlets, assets, if you will. If you think about it, each person that you get involved into your team literally can become an income generating asset for you. So it was kind of neat how somebody explained this to me, that that picturing each person almost like a Coke machine, that when you bring somebody in, you get them trained, you get them set up, you really don't know where their location might be. That's going to be, if they're going to be the hot Coke machine, or if they're going to be the average Coke machine, or the low production Coke machine. You just really don't know. But just like Coke, you think big. Coke doesn't know that in a lot of cases either. They just have many, many distribution outlets, and that's what's really, really important. Okay. Now, I took this slide out of the new presentation. I don't know if you had a chance to see this one or not, but I took this slide out of the new presentation that I'm starting to use, that we'll begin to use in the next few weeks and there going forward. And what it is, it's really showing somebody first and foremost their personal production, and then I'm going to get to the team production in a second. But as an example, let's say somebody went out there and they built a book of business that generated 12 million kilowatts annually, okay, over a year period, okay? And on average, and the only reason it's showing a multiplied by 1,000 is I wanted to do easy math. Understand that through the majority of our suppliers, we are paid a lot more than would be the equivalent of 1,000 kilowatt, $1,000 per million kilowatts. It'd probably be closer to, 12 to 1,400 range, depending on some of these suppliers. But I just wanted to use a small 1,000 as a round number so we can do easy math, so you don't have to really think about this, okay? But let's say somebody collectively built a book of business of around, on average 12 million kilowatts annually, multiplied by 1,000. Their per year income would be 12 grand, right? Well, if you extrapolate that out to breaking that down per month, somebody could actually build a decent book of business and supplement their income by $1,000 a month with only 12 million kilowatts. Now, we have people in the company already that have done deals that one single deal is that equivalent, and some have been way bigger, and some of them have been way smaller. Okay, but just using that as an average. So if you see the fact that you could actually build a book of business and continue to add on that, the sky's the limit as to what you can personally produce if you choose to do so. And you can see, that you can really build a bigger book of business. The more kilowatts that you have the ability to override, the more money you make. That's really all it comes down to, okay? But let's get back to the benefit of basically building a team, getting those Coke machines out there, those assets. If you look at our compensation plan, and you can actually get the comp plan on our website, but if you understand that we also pay a 10% commission match. So if you choose to go out there and build a book of business, you earn residuals off that. But again, there are some advisors that or people you can bring on that become advisors that can tap you into commissions that you never would have had the opportunity to tap into. As an example, let's say you refer somebody named Mark, and Mark is your friend, and he decides that he's going to go out and build a book of business. And let's say he books $10,000 annually, okay, in his book of business. So that would be, if we use the math I just showed you, 10 million kilowatts, okay, or maybe even less. It'd be probably way less than that, would produce $10,000 annually for his book of business. Because you're getting a 10% commission match, you would earn $1,000 off of that, okay? So that's a really, really nice book of business source of income. So if you think about it, if you could help somebody generate that kind of income, each person that you brought on board, each Coke machine, could potentially pay you a few hundred to a few $1,000s monthly, okay? So that's real significant. So if we take a similar slide that I had from the previous, let's say the annual income per broker, per advisor, is $10,000. If you made 10% override, that'd be $1,000. Well, if you grew your team by 10 brokers, you would actually add an additional $10,000 annually to your income. Okay, so if you think for a moment, what would you do with an extra $10,000 a year, or almost $1,000 a month in income? I mean, most people, there's a lot of that gives you a lot of options just for that. Okay. Well, if we did the same thing, what if you built your team, we went above and beyond the 10-team challenge, and you built a team of 50 brokers. Obviously, you could get 10, and if they did the same thing, that'd be way more than that. That's actually a pretty significant override on that. And then obviously, if you took that to 100 brokers, if you got 10 who got 10, That's pretty significant, and that's a lot of residual income. Okay, that's this page right here. This slide right here is just on the overrides, on just 10% override. If you had people that you brought on board, they got to work, brought in a book of business, that paid some decent residuals on that. Okay, and obviously you can increase those numbers, you can lessen those numbers. You'll start to see, I think, some data play out that will kind of give you an idea of exactly what you have to build for to generate that kind of income. So let me talk to you a little bit about how you could potentially get those numbers to start working for you. And then what I'm going to show you is really cool coming up. It's a case study that's a real world scenario that I did myself personally, but I'm going to give you an example. And I'm going to show you some numbers, okay? But this was a saying that I heard a long time ago about having a system. And it's called, it says the system is a leverage by which you turn ordinary people into extraordinary performers, okay? And it goes to this one. Great businesses do not look for extraordinary people. Great businesses look for ordinary people and leverage them with extraordinary systems. I'll give you a perfect example of that is McDonald's. Most people are familiar with McDonald's. McDonald's typically doesn't have the best and the brightest working there, but because their system is intact, they have a sequential thing of events that they can do. You can really you can see how successful they are. They focused more on generating a system that allowed people that were ordinary create good results. They can hire a kid straight out of high school, or in high school, in fact, to go out there and do some stuff. Okay. Now the other thing that I heard, all these three sayings that I'm going to show you here actually come from the same guy, Michael Gerber, who's an economist and a very, very successful businessman. And he has a great book out there called The E-Myth, which I'd highly recommend you get. But he also said something I don't know if it was in his book, but I know it was in his live seminar that I heard. He said, rather than try to motivate people to increase productivity, create systems to increase productivity, and the motivation naturally follows. And I thought that was such a powerful thing when I heard this. And understand that what I heard when I heard this stuff taught on an audio that I listened to over and over and over again on my trips to my business trips, that it got me thinking completely different in how I should focus on where I put my time in trying to increase and build an organization, build an advisor team. So I really began to focus on that, okay? So what I'm going to show you right now is the exact 3-step action plan that I used before, and then I'm going to show you now how you have access to this right now. You just may never have seen this played out, okay? And what this 3-step plan does is it actually allows you to use simple tools to tell the story, to explain the message, to give someone potential that pretty much does the work for you. And regardless of someone, whether they just joined today or they've been in for a year, can do this exact plan and get results, okay? Now, and then after I show you these 3 tools, I'm going to show you the case study to back up why this system works, okay? Or showing you proof that it did. Now, the first step is I typically always had people go to promoterswanted.com and I have them watch this short intro video. If you do that yourself, you go there. This video is strictly there to pique the interest of someone, to find out if they would be interested in just learning more about our program, okay? Now, the reason for this is in a lot of cases, people try to get people to, eat the whole elephant without having a bite first. Or, a lot of times somebody just really wants to know what time it is, and too many people try to tell them how to build the watch, okay? The reason this system works, and I've proved it out in doing this for years previously, that it allowed somebody to use a very short intro to not interrupt somebody's time with a lot of commitment, but maybe to just pique their interest enough that they would watch something and go, you know what, I want more information, okay? Which led me to step 2, this is how I taught everybody to go to step 2. Step 2 was what I would recommend is Bidpoint services, okay? Now, the reason behind this is this. The first video, this one right here, piques their interest in the concept and the idea. This one then give someone an understanding of what the process is, because someone is typically going to say, ask themselves two questions. Is it worth doing, and can I do it? Is it worth doing, and can I do it? By looking at this first video, they go, this looks like it would be worth doing. I'd like more information. But what do I have to know? Well, this one right here says, this one right here basically says, well, all you got to do is send somebody to Bidpoint Services, the customers, and there's a video on there that does the work for me. There's explanations of the services on there for me. There's testimonies on there for me. So these two things basically ask or answer the two big questions. What's in it for me? Can I do it? Which leads you then, if that person then says, you know what, this seems very good. What do I have to do? What's the big picture? How do I get paid and everything like this? So these two things right here, 1 and 2, pique the interest. Step 3 is basically watching a webinar, okay? So how this is gonna work is I created a new PowerPoint. I'm going to do a live webinar, and I'll invite everybody in, on our email list and everybody from the company. I'm going to host it on bidpointwebinar.com. Okay, this is exactly the same 3 steps I did before, and I'm going to show you the case study here in a second. It basically it was very, very successful. So bidpointwebinar.com will give somebody in the full scope of events, everything that, how our company works, the industry, the product, all the opportunity, how they get compensated, what they're really going to do, what the process is of submitting customers. The power behind using 3 steps versus just trying to send somebody directly to Bidpoint Webinar is, again, it allows you to share the message with somebody who genuinely wants to hear it, which is a big difference, okay? So let's talk about this case study, and I'm going to show you a real-world thing that happened for me that produced hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm going to show you why that worked using this 3 steps, okay? So what had happened, and now I'm going to switch completely over into this case study. What had happened was I was making a lot of money, and I got a lot of business, and a lot of people see me on the internet, whole 9 yards, and I eventually had a few people ask me how I did it. Somebody sat down with me and said, well, how did you do that? What did you do? And I kind of threw out some generic terms and some regurgitated junk I'd read before. But then I hadn't really taken the time to really quantify what happened. And it didn't happen until I heard a guy say one time that you have to start making data-driven decisions versus opinion-based decisions. And that really got my attention, because of this whole time I was making opinions or assumptions that what I was doing was working, but I couldn't actually tell because I had never really taken the time to track the effects of what I was doing. Was it a business card that was working for me? Was it a live presentation that was working for me? Was it a phone call that was working for me? Was it a live meeting? Was it me driving to their house for 2 hours to get to their house? I couldn't figure it out. So what I did is I took all the data that I could find, tracked numbers on the websites and the videos that I had out there, the websites, and what I began to see was something really, really remarkable, and that's what I'm going to show you right now. I basically reverse engineered how I generated 45,561 customers. Okay. Now, these, in a lot of cases, there were both residential and commercial customers. Okay. Because the company I was doing this with, there was the ability to get, a lot of residential customers. So obviously, the dollar amounts were not as big as what we would have here. If I had those same numbers, as I'm going to show you, it would be insane. But as an example, so 45,601 customers were what I was actually overriding in business. That showed up because there were 3,225 reps or advisors that had become part of my team overall. And somebody was like, how'd you do that? So I started to look at this. And what I realized, looking at the data on my websites, because I was the one that set up the promoters wanted, the other videos, the other websites, and the webinars, that at the very end, if I could get somebody to watch the webinar, okay, I knew that a certain amount of those people would join. Well, I couldn't get a lot of people to the webinar until I got them to see the customer service / video training website. And I got most of them to start there at the very beginning with promoters wanted. So I had 30,000 people view the first video, which then gave them enough interest to see the second video / website, which then they decided they wanted a full-blown presentation, whether that was live at a hotel or whatever, okay? So if you look, if I divided 3,000 reps between 45 customers by where they came from, each rep was worth about 14 customers on average. Because there was a residential market and it was very, very low profit margin, it was a $5 per customer average, but I realized that each rep was actually worth about $70 to me. So if you took $70 times 3,200 reps, that was an annual income of over $200,000 on this dinky per customer average. Well, you guys saw the slide that I just showed you a minute ago of what the significance of some of these commercial customers are, okay? And that didn't include credit cards or trash or anything like this. So we have a way bigger potential. Now, reverse engineering this, I wanted to ask myself this one. Which of these things was the most important thing? Was it the customers, the reps, the webinar, whatever? And to me, it came down to this. I realized that the very beginning of this, you could almost call it a funnel or process or journey, was to get people, the more people I could get and the more people I could hammer in their heads to get people to watch that simple first video, because it's only like 5 to 6, 7 minutes long, got everything else to flow. It all started here. It all started with promoterswanted.com to get to the final presentation to view that. So I had that because if you look at the math, if you go back to here and look at this math, it comes out to about, for every person that ever went to the first video, the ratio of conversions was 9.4%, almost a 10% conversion rate, which literally meant that for every 100 people that viewed that very first Promoters Wanted video, it eventually turned out that there were 9 reps there. That's why I still track these stats to this day, and I can actually look at the stats we currently have, look at the size of our company, and we're actually way higher than this, but this is the case study I'm using of what happened. 9 reps, okay? So for every 100 video views, it actually came out to about 9 reps. And all it was, hey, I'm going to text you something. I want you to watch this short video. Hey, I'm going to give you a call. I'm going to send you an email. I want you to watch this short video. So the question comes this: how many Coke machines do you want? How many people do you want to see that first presentation? If you think about how many Coke machines, if you think about the potential that if you build a team of 10 or 10, 15 or 20 or 50 or 100 or even 1,000 of people in your organization, people in your team, and they got and they understood, because what's nice is once they join the company, they're now going to go through a very easy, simple, sequential training process to show them exactly how to generate a customer, how to go present the thing, how to do this. So we have everything practically in a systematized, that is actually a word, I've looked it up before, that helps you build this process, okay? So the last thing I got to say on this, and then I'll maybe open it up and we can chit chat here, is are you ready for the challenge? If you think about it, if all you did was focus on trying to build your team of, getting a team built of at least 10 new people in the next 30 days by using that 3-step process, Promoters Wanted, Bidpoint Services, and Bidpoint Webinar, I think that you're going to easily do that. If you looked at those numbers, watch that case study, and you go through this. And now I'm going to have this video recorded. This webinar should be recorded. I'll email it out tonight or tomorrow so you can watch it again and you get those numbers. But that's the power, I believe, of what we have our hands on here, especially in the commercial market. And when you start to hear some of the things that we've got coming in January that, that are some enhancements, I guess you could say, of what we've got in place. And now we've got all the systems down. Everybody's flowing. It's working out better. I think you're going to see that it's easy to bring people on board. They can go through the onboarding process, learn the process, get up to speed, and really, really rock this thing. So all that being said, I want to say thank you for jumping on board. I'm going to unmute you guys.